FYI, puns 100% dad-sourced, eye-roll-induced, teen-proof.
Hey, welcome back to Dad Space, the podcast for dads by dads. Now minty fresh. Glad to have you here. We're going to be talking today about what makes a good dad. You know, a good one. You look over and you're like, that right there is a good dad. You're like, okay, well, what makes a good dad? Let's uncover this and let's redefine what fatherhood looks like in this modern age of 2026 and beyond. It's Dad Space. You're a good dad. I'm going to prove it to you. Thanks for listening. Here we go. I wonder how you defined a good dad. Do you think when you look, okay, I want you to pull the visor down in your car and look in the mirror or rearview mirror, side mirrors. If you're walking past a store, stop, look in the front, pretend you're looking at something, but look at yourself. You're walking past the bathroom, you're like, oh, who's that sexy guy? Oh, that guy is a good dad, right? What do you see looking back at you? What tells you that you are a good dad? How do you know? How do you know you're doing it right? How do you know this is actually, you're doing a good job? How do you know? People tell you? Maybe? Probably not. You kind of just guessing. You're like, I think I'm doing okay. What's some of those things, those key performance indicators, a KPI, the fancy people would say, of a good dad? I think in today's world, the definition of a good dad is really no longer confined to simply being the provider, the discipline, the person who brings order to the house, or that distant authority figure. Wait till your father gets home. I remember that when I was growing up. Dreaded my dad coming home because I had no lawyers to plead my case in front of my dad. It was done. Fatherhood has evolved, thankfully, and with it comes both an opportunity and a bit of pressure for us as dads and granddads like me in 2026. I really want to focus on what it means to show up as a dad in a way that's relevant. There's intention behind it, and how we can connect to our kids really deeply, like beyond the surface level stuff that maybe for people my age, around my age, we grew up in a world that was a lot different than today. And that's a good thing, but it's not perfect by any means. There's an outdated model of fatherhood. I think we can all agree that as we progress, as we move forward and learn more and understand more, we do better. That's what knowledge is, right? We learn from our mistakes. We learn new things. Science comes up with new discoveries that we didn't have years ago. There's a new way to measure things. And there's new knowledge all the time. All the time. What you're doing today is going to be outdated when your kids grow up and become parents. So we just have to resign ourselves to the fact that we can't do what we think might happen in the future. We have to do with what we have today, the tools we have today, the knowledge we have today. And understand that we don't have all the answers and we're not going to get it right 100% of the time. It's just not going to happen. It's impossible. And then the new knowledge that's going to come 50 years from now is going to make today's knowledge look pretty silly and pretty old because it's 50 years from now. So that's going to be something we're going to have to deal with. Well, my kids will have to deal with. I probably won't be here. But that's the thing about progression and as we move forward as dads and as fathers, we only have our kids for so long. We only have so much knowledge before we have kids. And then we're learning on the job. It's all on the job learning. It's all figuring it out, making mistakes. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this way. We're always in this constant movement of understanding and knowledge. And the biggest part of all that is to not step out of the environment where you can learn and just rest on what you know, because what you know will be outdated very quickly. We need to focus on learning more. We need to focus on seeing and understanding what's happening in our world around us so that we can learn, we can adjust, and adapt our approach to being a dad. We got to get away from this outdated model of fatherhood. For generations, many dads were taught that their primary role, again, was to be the one that kind of ruled the roost. Like you were the one that kind of ruled the household. Like, come on. Really? Nowadays? No. It's not like that. Those responsibilities still matter. Like we still need to show up and provide for our family. I'm not taking anything away from that, but they're no longer enough on their own. Kids today need way more than just food on the table and a house and a roof over their head. They need more than that. They need your presence. And if you think back of your father, your grandfather, think back generations, they were in the provider mode most of the time. Not a lot of presence because they were always working or whatever. They kind of left our care to others. And they kind of swooped in, swooped out. We're not as close, not as connected, not as open. And we then bring that into our journey as a dad with all of its downsides, all of its upsides, but all of its downsides. And we try to adjust it in real time and try to make it better. The one thing I remember somebody telling me was, your kids are going to say to you that you did a terrible job and they're going to do better than you. Because you just said that about your family and they said it about their family, and that's called progress. So I hope my kids do better than I do. I hope they learn from my mistakes. I hope they learn from my shortcomings. And they make better choices than I did because they have now the knowledge of my lived experience, my adjustment from what I was raised as to what I wanted to raise my kids as. So I tried to bridge the gap, but there's holes that they have to fill in for their family, for their kids, and their kids are going to say the same thing about them. That's kind of how this works. A good dad isn't just someone who shows up financially, but someone who shows up and brings their emotional self, their mental health, and they're relatable. Those are things I think kids need from us in 2026 and beyond, is we need a dad that shows up in that way. Presence is the foundation of being a dad in this modern world. Our presence in the room, us being there, showing up at the kids' game, showing up for the kids when they need you, being so not so connected to your devices, like your phone, computer, gaming, all these other things that can pull you away from your family. Your kids need us to be present, but also not just physically, but engaged with them, like engaged in life with our kids, putting the phone down, making eye contact, listening without rushing to fix all the time. Your kids measure love in attention, not in your income. They don't get to see your balance sheet, debits and credits. No, it's in the small, consistent moments that I think really matter more than any big grand gestures like a Walt Disney cruise. Kids need to see you. Bedtime conversations, car rides, a lot of the mundane things, grocery shopping, just pick up after school, just the things, all of the things, sitting beside them during their hard days. That is where connection is built. From there, we move into emotional intelligence. So I grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and I can tell you not one time did the topic of emotional intelligence ever come up in conversation in my home. My parents were great people, but that's not a term that we would know back then. We didn't have that. Many dads were never taught how to process or express our emotions. Most of the time we were told to bury them deep inside of us, which can make this area pretty uncomfortable for us as dads to have this conversation and show our vulnerability because nobody's taught us how to do that. But being a good dad today means learning alongside of your kids. See what's happening here? That dynamic of being the the ruler of the house is changing. It means naming your feelings and owning your reactions. When you screw up, you don't hide it. You don't bury it. When you are not feeling right, it's not something that you just hide when you go out to the garage or workshop or work on the car because you just don't want to be seen by anybody. Your kids aren't learning anything from that behavior. All they're doing is seeing a man hiding from who he is. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. When a dad says, I got that wrong, or I'm frustrated and I'm going to work through it, but I need some time. It teaches far more than silence ever will. As a dad, we need to abandon that retreat mechanism that we have as dads. When things go rough, we can't run for the hills. We got to address it. Our kids are going to learn way more by watching us deal with the hard things than just the highlights. We also talk about intentionality. I think that modern fatherhood doesn't happen by accident. It requires us choosing our values, living them out daily. What kind of man do you want your kids to see? What do you want them to remember you for? And the answers to those questions should really shape how you show up. It's reverse engineering. It's what's the result and how do I work my way backwards to gain that result? I have to do these steps, but I start with the end in mind. We need to think about that. We need to plan for that. We need to figure out how to work through the ordinary rhythm of life and be intentional at all aspects of that. And then also we need to address the pressure that many dads feel just to get it right, to not make any mistakes. Are you feeling that pressure? Like, are you feeling that you're not allowed to screw up? You're not allowed to make that mistake. You're not allowed to do something that makes you look silly, makes your family embarrassed, or makes you seem incapable of being a dad. We need to address that pressure that men feel to get it right. The truth is that there's no perfect formula at all to being a dad. We're all learning on the job. And even if you have multiple kids, every kid is different. What worked for kid number 1 doesn't work for kid number 2. We can't just assume that we parent once and just multiply it by the number of children. It doesn't work that way. Our kids need us in different ways. They need us to show up in different ways. We need to be looking at our life as a dad and base it on our consistency, our humility, and the fact that we're growing as a dad. We don't get it right, but we're growing. We're growing in knowledge. We're listening to podcasts like this so that we can learn more and go, wait a minute, I'm not thinking this through right. I've missed an opportunity here to be better. It's about being willing to learn. It's about being willing to adapt and to stay engaged even when it's hard. That's why I created this podcast. I wanted it to be something for dads so that we had conversation about what we need and what we need to do better, and that you're not alone. A good dad today is not defined by outdated rules or unrealistic standards that we choose to not keep. It's your willingness to be present, to be aware of your emotions, and actively involved in your kids' lives. It's less about having all the answers, but it's actually more about showing up again and again with that intention and that heart for your family. Don't hide your mistakes. Don't hide your shortcomings. Don't hide the things that embarrass you. But let your kids see you struggle to overcome the things that hold you back. And in that, they're going to learn so much more than a father who's absent, who treats his home like a castle that he rules from an iron fist. Kids don't need that anymore. They need something different from you. It's time to make some changes. If you ever want to chat, I love just jumping on like Zoom No matter where you are around the world, we can do this. Grab a virtual coffee together. Just talk about life. So if you're just sitting there going, yeah, this is great, but can't do this on my own. Thrilled to have time with you. Dadspace.ca, all the information's there. Love to talk to you anytime. You got this. You're a good dad. If you haven't heard this often enough, frequently enough, then listen to me very closely. You are a good dad. You really are. Thanks for listening to Dad Space. Talk soon. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. I really appreciate you being here and making time in your busy life as a dad to listen to a podcast called Dad Space. It's so great to have you here. I love to serve you any way possible. If you need anything from me, reach out to dadspace.ca. If you're finding value in the show and you're like, this is great, I wish I could do something to help Dave, it's very simple. There's a Buy Me a Coffee link on my website, and all the money that comes in from Buy Me a Coffee, I then reinvest in other people. Other people who are creatives, they're creating podcasts, they're doing all of those other stuff. I coach podcasting on and on. I like to take that money that comes from you, and I'm very grateful for it, and reinvest it into somebody else. So if you're wondering why that's there, that's what it's for. And if you can help the show and help me help others, then go grab that Buy Me a Coffee link. You can do like even one single coffee. It's like $5 Canadian. I'd love to have that money to reinvest in others, and I really appreciate that. So thanks for being here. Remember, this podcast is always free. No ads, no commercials to skip. It's all about you. It's all about the content. So thanks for your help. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate you so much. I'd love to meet you virtually, email, DMs, whatever. Let's meet. I'd love to chat. Thanks for supporting Dad Space. Talk soon.